It happened without warning. On a pristine August morning, the gates to America's first national park slammed shut. Lines of cars, stretching for miles, came to a sudden, grinding halt. Families on their dream vacations, international tourists, and seasoned park enthusiasts all faced the same jarring reality. Flashing lights from park ranger vehicles and military Humvees painted the landscape in strobing reds and blues. Rangers, their faces grim and unyielding, offered no explanations. They just repeated the same stark, chilling order: "The park is closed, turn back immediately, this is not a drill." The message, delivered with an unnerving urgency, sent a wave of confusion and then panic through the crowds. The scene quickly devolved into chaos. Phones lost signal. Rumors spread like wildfire through the trapped lines of traffic. People spoke of a massive plume of smoke seen rising from the park's interior. Others whispered about the ground shaking violently, a tremor far stronger than the minor quakes that occasionally ripple through the region. At the West Yellowstone entrance, a family from Ohio described a low, guttural roar that seemed to emanate from the earth itself just moments before the evacuation order was given. The air, they said, tasted of sulfur and ash. This wasn't a wildfire. This wasn't a chemical spill. This was something different, something primordial and terrifying. The official silence in the initial hours only fueled the growing hysteria. News helicopters, ordered to maintain a wide perimeter, could only capture grainy images of a dark, ominous cloud hanging over the heart of Yellowstone. The lack of concrete information created a vacuum that was quickly filled by fear and speculation. Social media exploded with unverified accounts and terrifying theories. Was it an eruption? Was the supervolcano blowing? The questions hung heavy in the air, as thousands of people, suddenly displaced and deeply unsettled, tried to make sense of an event that felt like the start of a disaster movie, only this was terrifyingly real. Small gateway towns like Gardner, Montana, and Cody, Wyoming were instantly overwhelmed. Hotels were swamped, gas stations ran dry, and grocery store shelves were stripped bare. The festive, adventurous atmosphere that typically defines these communities evaporated, replaced by an undercurrent of anxiety. The closure of Yellowstone was more than just an inconvenience. It was a sudden, violent severing of a connection to a beloved natural wonder, and a terrifying hint that the ground beneath their feet was not as stable as they had always believed. Yellowstone is more than just a park. It is an American icon, a global treasure. Established in 1872, it holds the distinction of being the world's first national park. Spanning nearly 3,500 square miles across Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho, it is a sanctuary for iconic wildlife. Herds of bison roam free, grizzly bears, wolves, elk. For millions of visitors each year, Yellowstone represents the very essence of the American wild. The park is a geological marvel, a vibrant canvas painted by volcanic forces. Its geysers, most famously Old Faithful, and hot springs like the Grand Prismatic, dazzle with their otherworldly colors. Fumaroles hiss steam, mudpots burble with a thick rhythmic pulse. This geothermal activity is the park's main attraction, drawing scientists and tourists alike to witness the raw power of the earth. Yellowstone is a critical scientific laboratory. Geologists, volcanologists, and biologists flock here to study processes found in few other places on the planet. The Yellowstone Volcano Observatory, a consortium of scientific agencies, continuously monitors the park's every tremor and twitch. GPS stations measure ground deformation to the millimeter. Seismographs record thousands of tiny earthquakes each year. This constant surveillance provides invaluable data, not just for understanding Yellowstone, but for assessing volcanic hazards worldwide. But this incredible geothermal system is also the park's greatest threat. All of these famous features, the geysers, the hot springs, the dramatic canyons, are the surface expressions of a colossal volcanic system lurking beneath. The very ground that people walk on is the lid of a massive magma chamber. Yellowstone's beauty is inextricably linked to its potential for destruction. The park is a place of wonder precisely because it sits atop one of the largest active volcanoes on Earth, and today that volatile foundation has violently reminded us of its presence. The signs were there, but their ultimate meaning was a mystery until it was too late. In the weeks leading up to today's catastrophic event, the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory tracked a notable increase in unusual activity. The ground within the caldera had begun to swell. GPS monitors registered accelerated uplift, particularly near the Norris Geyser Basin. The ground was rising faster than at any point since detailed monitoring began. Scientists were on high alert but publicly urged calm. They explain such seismic swarms and ground deformation are not uncommon and rarely signal an impending eruption. Then came changes in the geothermal features. Park rangers and veteran guides reported erratic behavior from well-known geysers. Water temperatures in some hot springs spiked dramatically, killing off colorful bacterial mats. Gas chemistry shifted, higher concentrations of sulfur dioxide and helium-3. Earthquake swarms grew more intense. Small quakes are a daily occurrence in Yellowstone, but frequency and magnitude escalated. A series of magnitude 4 and 5 tremors rattled the park in the 72 hours before the explosion. Seismologists noted a deeper origin, suggesting something was pushing up through the crust. The final precursor came just hours before the main event. A hydrothermal explosion occurred near the Sour Creek Dome on an unprecedented scale. It wasn't magmatic, no lava reached the surface. Instead, it was a violent, steam-driven blast. Superheated water trapped in rock, pressurized by rising magma below, flashed into steam with explosive force. This produced the initial roar heard by many, a colossal pressure release valve. The plumbing of the supervolcano breached in a new and violent way. The first reports came from those who were closest. Hikers on the Mount Washburn Trail described a sound that was not just heard, but felt. It was like the world's biggest bass drum being hit, right in your chest, said Maria Flores. The ground bucked, more like a carpet being snapped. We looked north toward the Hayden Valley and saw the ground just bulge. Then a massive black cloud erupted from the trees. It wasn't lava. It was mud, rock, steam shooting thousands of feet into the air. We just ran.
What we've seen is consistent with a major hydrothermal explosion, but on an unprecedented scale. Imagine a pressure cooker the size of a city block. The lid blew off. The trigger appears to be a magmatic intrusion, magma moving shallower. That intrusion superheated the groundwater above it, causing the rock cap to catastrophically fail. The debris field is likely extensive, and the energy release was significant.
Park officials said the situation escalated with terrifying speed. The seismic alarms were going crazy. A ranger patrol near the Grand Loop Road called. The ground had ripped open. Steam vents opened right on the road surface. Multiple reports of tourists being knocked off their feet. Public safety became the only priority. We had to get everyone out. We had no idea what was coming next, and we still don't.
The windows rattled so hard I thought they'd shatter. I've felt hundreds of quakes, but this was different. This was a deep, violent boom. I went outside and smelled sulfur like a million burnt matches. I've never seen the park close like this, with the military involved. Everyone here is scared. We live next to a giant, and it feels like it just woke up and roared.
The term supervolcano sounds like something from science fiction, but it is a very real geological classification. It refers to a volcano capable of producing an eruption of magnitude 8 on the Volcano Explosivity Index, meaning it ejects more than 1,000 cubic kilometers of material. Yellowstone is the most famous supervolcano in the world. The massive crater, roughly 45 miles by 30 miles, was formed by its last super eruption, which was so colossal that the ground simply collapsed into the emptied magma chamber below. Yellowstone's eruptive history is both ancient and terrifying. It has had 3 truly massive, caldera-forming eruptions in its past. The most recent super eruption, which formed the current caldera, happened about 631,000 years ago. This event covered a vast portion of North America in a thick layer of ash, and would have triggered a volcanic winter. There have been dozens of smaller but still very large eruptions in between. Geologically speaking, the system is very much active. Scientists from the USGS and partner universities monitor Yellowstone's vital signs with an array of sophisticated instruments. They track ground movement, seismic activity, gas emissions, and thermal changes. The data shows 2 massive magma chambers beneath the park, a deeper one, filled with basaltic magma, and a shallower, larger chamber filled with more explosive rhyolitic magma. It is this shallow chamber, located just 3 to 10 miles below the surface, that poses the greatest threat. The current consensus among volcanologists was that the risk of a super eruption in any given year was extremely low, about 1 in 730,000. However, today's event challenges some of those assumptions. The critical question now is, where does that magma stop? Will it stall and cool, simply adding more heat to the geothermal system, or will it continue its ascent? The risk is not necessarily a full-blown super eruption. A much smaller but still devastating lava flow or volcanic blast is a more likely and now more immediate possibility. The sleeping giant may not be fully awake, but it is stirring violently in its sleep. The sudden closure has sent shockwaves through the human ecosystem that depends on Yellowstone. For visitors, the dominant emotions are disappointment, fear. The Miller family from Illinois had saved for years for their trip. "We were at Old Faithful, waiting for it to go off. Rangers came and told everyone to leave," said Sarah Miller, holding her crying child. "We didn't know what was happening. Now we're stuck in Cody, our vacation ruined. We're watching the news, terrified. Is this the big one they always talk about? We just want to go home, but the roads are jammed." For business owners in the gateway communities, the fear is existential. August is our peak month. This is when we make the money that gets us through the winter. If the park stays closed for weeks or the rest of the season, I'll be bankrupt. Our entire livelihood is tied to those park gates. Now they're locked and guarded by soldiers. The scientific community is experiencing intense professional focus and deep concern. This is the event we've spent our careers preparing for. All our models and theories are being put to the ultimate test. We are in uncharted territory. The system is behaving in ways we have not observed. Local residents are grappling with a new, tangible sense of vulnerability. They're accustomed to ground shaking and the occasional whiff of sulfur, military presence, media frenzy, seeing that plume, feeling that blast. It's not abstract anymore. For the first time in my life, I've packed a go bag. My family has a plan to leave if we get the word. We're watching and we're waiting. In the hours following the explosion, a massive, multi-agency response has been scrambling into place. The federal government has taken the lead, with the Department of the Interior and FEMA coordinating efforts. A no-fly zone has been established over the park and a wide surrounding area, not only for safety, but to allow military and scientific survey flights to operate without interference. Military convoys and flights are being deployed, and unmanned drone survey flights are running missions over the park. The governors of Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho have declared states of emergency. They are mobilizing their respective National Guard units to assist with traffic control, logistics, and to secure the perimeter of the vast, now empty park. The primary focus of the ongoing investigation is to understand exactly what happened and what is happening now. The Yellowstone Volcano Observatory is working around the clock, deploying portable seismometers and GPS units closer to the blast zone. Unmanned aerial drones equipped with thermal cameras and gas sensors are being flown into the still dangerous area to map the changes on the ground and analyze the composition of the steam and gas plume. The key objective is to determine the location, size, and trajectory of the magma intrusion that triggered the event. Official communication has been centralized to avoid misinformation and panic. The White House has held a press conference urging citizens to remain calm and to rely on official sources. A new website, YellowstoneResponse.gov, has been launched to provide real-time updates, safety advisories, and scientific briefings. A joint information center has been established in Bozeman, Montana, to coordinate communication between all the agencies involved. The message is clear. The situation is serious, it is being monitored at the highest levels, and public safety is the absolute top priority. Authorities are also preparing for worst-case scenarios. While they stress that a super eruption remains highly unlikely, contingency plans are being reviewed. Evacuation routes for a much wider region are being mapped out. FEMA is pre-positioning supplies, including food, water, and air filtration masks in regional centers outside the immediate danger zone. The goal is not to alarm the public, but to ensure a state of readiness for any further escalation. The official stance is one of vigilant, cautious preparation in the face of an unpredictable and powerful natural force. As of this evening, the situation at Yellowstone remains tense and highly uncertain. The park is sealed under the watch of the National Guard, roadblocks and guards at park entrances. The initial hydrothermal blast has subsided, but the massive plume of steam still vents into the sky, a visible reminder of the heat below. Seismic activity near the blast site remains elevated. Scientists have confirmed that the ground in the Norris Geyser Basin area has risen by several more inches in the past 12 hours alone. The magma is still pushing upwards. The latest update from the USGS warns that more hydrothermal explosions are possible and could occur with little to no warning. They have designated a red zone covering the northern half of the park where the risk is considered highest. They cannot yet rule out the possibility of a small magmatic eruption, a lava flow, a localized volcanic blast. The odds of a full caldera-forming super eruption are still considered extremely low, but scientists admit that their confidence in those long-term probabilities is shaken by the unprecedented nature of today's short-term events. The immediate future is simply too volatile to predict with certainty. For the public, the advice is to stay away from the region. All park access roads are closed indefinitely. Residents in nearby communities are being asked to remain vigilant, monitor official news sources, and be prepared to evacuate if the situation worsens. Air quality alerts have been issued for areas downwind of the plume, which carries sulfurous gases. The nation watches on, and indeed the world watches on, holding its breath. The Yellowstone event is the lead story on every news channel, a stark reminder of the planet's immense power and humanity's relative fragility. What comes next for Yellowstone is unknown. Will the system stabilize and slowly return to its slumber? Or is this the beginning of a new, more active and dangerous chapter in the volcano's long life? Only time and the constant watchful eyes of the scientists monitoring its every heartbeat will tell. For now, America's crown jewel, a place synonymous with natural wonder and idyllic vacations, has become a symbol of profound uncertainty and a source of deep national anxiety. The ground has broken, the steam has been released, and we are left to wait and wonder what the sleeping giant will do next.